Hi everyone, this is just a quick run through of how to play around with the cigarette lab data. So first thing, I know some of you have mentioned that you feel pretty familiar with Google Docs, but just in case you don't, you're not able to edit the spreadsheet that you get off of Moodle. What you need to do first when you go onto this is go to File, make a copy. You can rename it. This would be the best thing to do. Rename it shared sig data, and then after it, go ahead and just put your name. The next thing you'll want to do, because this is how you'll ultimately turn this into me, if you come over to share and just type in worthingb at greenmountain.edu. You can change it to can view unless you want me to edit. It's up to you. I won't do any edits, but you can change it there. And even before you're done, you can send this to me so that whatever changes you make, I'll see. You don't have to worry about waiting until you're all done. Okay, so now for graphing our data, there's two sets of data here. This is the data from the filtered cigarettes, smoker, and secondhand smoker. And if you come down here, here's the tab that brings you to the unfiltered. Notice on the filtered, there's a few from cigarette brands that people brought themselves they wanted to try out, and it's just labeled over here. The stuff in black is the ones that were in the lab. Okay, so we're gonna make some bar graphs of these different averages and different numbers. We could take the average of everything just to kind of get a look at it, but we want a bar graph of all this data. On the bar graph too, we want to include error bars, or in other words, these will tell us how close our bar represents the true value, or in other words, a give or take. Right? It could be as high as one amount or lower, and I'll show you how to make those error bars. So first things first, let me just show you how to make a quick bar graph on this. If I select right here an A and drag over to B, it'll highlight both of these columns in their entirety. If I come up here, sometimes it's hiding under more. There's this little bar graph. You click on that, and we get our graphs. So like I said, I want a bar graph. I can select it here. I can go to chart types and select it here. It'll give me the same thing either way. And there's our bar graphs. Now, a few students found that something very strange happened with their filter paper. I want you as an individual to decide what we should do with this data. Obviously, the filter paper couldn't have lost mass, so there might have been some error in there, but we couldn't quite figure out what it was. Now, if you include it, that's fine. Just be able to justify why you do, and if you get rid of it, also be able to justify why you're getting rid of that data. So for now, I'll keep it in here. Next thing I want to do is go to customization, and here I can start to change things. If I'm not happy with the title, I can change the title right here. I can move the legend around so that it's in the right or on the bottom, wherever you want to place it. You can play around with some of these if you'd like, but most of them may not be necessary for this particular lab. Here we want to add in data for what the horizontal and vertical axes represent, right? And let me change this back to right. So what you can do is when you have horizontal, you can add a title as to what this horizontal data represents. When you're done with that, you can just select this, get left vertical, add a title as to what this represents. Now, once you hit insert, you have a graph all set up. If you want to get it out of the way of everything, all you have to do is hit this down and go to move to own sheet. So now down here you'll notice I have the filtered data and chart 1 that goes along with it. So I can toggle between those two. Right? We didn't add error bars here, So another thing I can do is I can go back to advanced edit. It'll bring me right back to where we were, and at the bottom here is where we're going to add error bars in. Alright, hit cancel for now, because what we need to figure out for error bars is what's the standard deviation away from the average. So we can figure out the average here with some spreadsheet formulas. Here's what we're going to do. Anytime you put in an equal sign, it's telling the spreadsheet that you're about to do a formula in that cell that you're in. I want to find the average of all the smoker data. So I'm going to type in AVE for average, and it gives me all kinds of choices. I want the numeric average. So I'm going to click on that. There it is. It starts a parentheses, and what I need to put in here are cells A2 all the way through cells A9. So if I select A2, you'll see it automatically brings that up. And if I drag down through so that it selects all of these, it says A2 colon A9, and I just end my parentheses, hit enter. There is our average for that data. Now, since this is to the left of the second-hand smoke, and I have it set up here the same way, I can click on this, and by the way, here's that formula if you need to change it. I can grab this little blue box so that a black crosshair comes up, click on it and drag it over, and what it does is it drags the formula over so that it's taking the average of B2 through B9, this data. Now look, we have a negative number. Again, that brings us back to what should we do about these negative numbers that gave us the two bars that were going down below 0. Now, again, I'll leave that up to you. I'll let you kind of play around and see if you can figure out the best thing to do. Alright, so now we have some averages. Those will be handy. But like I said a second ago, we want to do error bars that show the standard deviation. Or in other words, how far away from the average do these particular numbers tend to go. So I'm going to come here and do the same thing, equals, but instead of average, I'm going to put ST for standard deviation. It gives me a couple different ones here, and I'm going to go to this one, standard dev A, or maybe best to go just to standard deviation so we're not doing a sample, but right here, click on it, and I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to click on cell A2, drag down to cell A9, and my parentheses. There's the standard deviation. Drag that over. All right, so we have two deviations from the mean. Now what I can do, if I just probably go like 3 decimals here. Remember these 3 decimals, 0.038. We'll keep it at the 8 for the rounding, and 0.285. I can go back to my chart, advance edit, come down to error bars. I'm gonna, where it says series all columns, I'm gonna select the smoker one. I'm gonna select constant. Don't worry about what it's done right here because I'm going to change this to 10, and I'm going by my memory here, but I think it was 0.038. I'll hit enter, and there is the standard deviation for the smoker. When I change this to the second-hand smoker, do the same thing, constant. I've forgotten what the number is, but so I'll just kind of type in one that I think is kind of close, 0.248. I think it was somewhere around there. Enter, and there's my standard deviation. Notice how much larger the deviation is here because we have all these ones that are pretty close to each other, but then all of a sudden, boom, these two throw that average way off and the deviation way off. So changing these two, or eliminating if you choose to, will change your bars. Alright, so you'll insert that. I hit cancel, but once you insert that, you'll see that. And then you're just going to repeat the same thing with the data for the unfiltered cigarettes. So you can get your averages, your standard deviations, and create the graph with the error bars. Alright, good luck.